Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the award-winning recovery podcast, Getting the Herd, brought to you by the McShin Foundation here in Richmond, Virginia. Today, we are in with special guests Aaron Kucharski and Carol Cruz. Carol, I love saying your name, so that's why I put you second in there. We are discussing Mobilize Recovery 2021, and if you don't know what that's all about, well, you're going to know at the end of this show. So we brought them on to tell you about that. This is an amazing opportunity to gather with grassroots recovery advocates from across the country in September to talk about what needs to be done and how to make it happen. And we got two of the best right here in the studio. Well, right here in our whatever this is together. Welcome, Carol. Why are you here? What's going on? Tell me something. Tell me something good.
Oh, so you want me to speak first, even though
Please
you used my name last? No, I'm just kidding.
Cruz is so fun to say.
I'm in this punchy mood. I just got off a call with Joseph Green, who is, those that don't know him, he's a spoken word artist, and we were actually kind of planning out our last assignment for the leadership training that we just got finished with last week. So why am I here? Well, you asked me to be here. For those that don't know me, my name is Carol Cruz. My pronouns are she, her, Aya, and I am on the stolen land here in Milford, Connecticut, on the shorelines of Milford, Connecticut, and it's the stolen lands of the Progressive tribe. Why I'm here is, and why I'm so excited about Mobilize Recovery is just got to get out of my house.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I feel you on that because I'm in a lot of spaces with you, Zoom spaces with you. I've never actually met you in person, and I'm very eager to talk to you about the pictures that are behind you that I see all the time now. So
I painted them myself. Paid my number. No.
Oh, girl, I love
it. Home decor. Home.
Yeah. This is what everybody's been doing during the pandemic, right?
Well, have my candles going. Aromatherapy.
Well, actually, I do that in my office too. It's absolutely vital. I have noise, music too, but sometimes I just have background, good, quiet noise, like I guess white noise. Aaron, good to have you on the show again, buddy. Welcome. Tell us what do we have in store at Mobilize Recovery? What is Mobilize Recovery? What's your part, and what do we got going on in September? What are the dates? I think I put it in the chat. I did, yeah.
Great. Yeah, Mobilize Recovery is a convening of recovery advocates, community organizers, harm reduction specialists, family members from all over the country. September 24th to 27th in Las Vegas. We say convening because it's about the people. It's less conferencey, right? It's more about working with one another. Sorry, is my video lagging?
It's lagging, but your voice is there, and so that's what we really need. We need your voice.
All right, I apologize for the technical slowness today, but I also, like Carol, Nathan, we have never, Nathan and I are in a lot of the same Zoom meetings, and we had a conversation a couple weeks ago where it's like, I feel like we know one another, but we've never physically been in the same space, which is just so odd.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to, after a year and a half of pandemic and being inside for the most part, starting to plan out some trips. And so Las Vegas, September 24th to the 27th, being in the same space with other advocates that we've been organizing with, over the past year and a half to 2 years, it's really going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's where I met first recovery in 2000.
In 2020, 2019? Uh-oh. Okay, I thought we might have lost.
Yeah, we had a virtual style conference last year. Obviously, we didn't meet in person. So 2019 was the initial Mobilize Recovery convening. And then last year we did a digital virtual sort of version where hundreds of advocates joined us virtually for the conference, for the convening. And this year, we finally get to have a blend of in-person organizing and convening, and having also it open on a digital platform for people to join virtually that can't be in Vegas in person.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, because I participated last year virtually while I was in Vegas, but that's another story. I was astounded by the breadth of people that were there and doing the work that we're doing, and it was across party lines, across gender lines, religion, and you had on the same day you had Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton speaking at this event. And for those of you who know their history, I mean, this is 30 years ago or 25 years ago. These two were enemies, but coming together to talk about this important issue is incredible. What surprises, what special guests, what can you tell us about this year? First of all, how much does it cost to go?
I literally can't tell you the special guests. I know.
Lips are sealed.
We're not going to have breaking news on this podcast, Nathan.
Well, so how much does it cost to go? Like, if I want to go,
the actual conference, there's no registration fee for the conference at all. People pay their travel there, but then we have heavily discounted room rates at the Westgate Hotel where Mobilize Recovery is happening. And meals are covered in terms of breakfast and lunch. And so, we work to cover as much as possible in that sort of.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. So I can't fly any. Carol, maybe I'll have to call you later on a one-on-one, but can't fly. Well, so if we talk about the history, talk about what happened in 2019. Tell us, who were the guests then? What did you guys? What was? I say guys, I mean folks. What was accomplished, and where have we grown from there? And what do we hope to grow? Where do we hope to grow when we get to there in September? Well, especially, I'm talking to you, Carol. Especially, what came from 2019 that's going to happen in 2021?
Ooh, yes, throw that ball back in my court. Yeah,
What?
So we always hit me. Aaron's always working, and I am too. I don't like to use the word busy, but we're definitely organizing, and we're very productive, and so what happened for me in 2019 was I actually found my leadership spine, my backbone of leadership. There is actual picture of me standing up where Tom Cordair is taking a picture of me in an ugly cry during Tom King's presentation. And I'm like, I guess I am a leader. And it's been a journey ever since. What really pulled from me, there was Eddie Moore Jr., Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. was the epitome of impact for me at Mobilize 2019. And I'll tell you really quickly why. I stood at the back of the room of the hotel. So I only saw the back of the head, of folks. But I definitely saw a lot of people kind of wiggling in their chair as he was talking about white privilege and white supremacy and mass incarceration. And I looked over to someone and I said, say that. Now, I identify today as a woman in long-term recovery as well as a woman of color. But what he was talking about was so uncomfortable, but it was truth, right? It was truth on the platform of looking in the spaces of recovery and not seeing a lot of folks that fit in the marginalized communities, right? And where we weren't creating safe spaces for people of color. Just because we're going down to these church basements, that's necessarily, we weren't having those conversations around race and inequities and disparities that were happening in the recovery movement. So that was a huge impact that kind of drew into the version, and again, Aaron can speak more to this, where we were virtual, but I had a conversation then with Ryan Hampton, and I said, Ryan, we have to do better. And this was after Breonna Taylor was murdered, and it was before George Floyd's murder. But in that conversation is where we created, and you're on that committee, that caucus, the Inclusivity Caucus. And so I guarantee this year at Mobilize 2021, we will have more representation on the main stage of folks of color from the LGBTQIA community, those they identify with abilities. So I'm super excited. We're 2019.
That's awesome. I'm sorry you're getting cut off there a little bit, Carol. I think we got all that message at the end there, but
okay.
we got so essentially more BIPOC and LGBTQIA plus individuals on the main stage. I think your feed is back, but for a second we lagged. Sorry about that. That's really exciting to me. Yeah, it's been an honor to be a part of that Inclusivity Caucus. And Aaron, the work that you're doing, tell us more.
Yeah, and that piece about 2019, that was the first Mobilize. We didn't really know what to expect. We had this application process where hundreds and hundreds of people applied. We had people selected from every state, and the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico that were present at that first convening. And it was interesting, the conversations that I would have with people at the beginning, because people would be like, I'm not really sure why I'm here or why I was selected or what, and then kind of like seeing that, that process of people kind of like understanding, like, yes, I can be a leader in my community. I can be a community organizer. I can teach others to do this. I can teach others what I'm learning here. And there's that ripple effect that can go from community to community across the country. And it was really kind of this moment for the recovery advocacy movement to do a check-in. It was almost like a state of the movement, figuring out where we were, what we don't want to repeat, and what needs to change. And Carol has certainly been an amazing piece to that. I've seen, I go from, and that's where Recovery Advocacy Project came from. That project was born out of Mobilize Recovery 1, because we can't just have like a convening and then nothing happens, right? And so Recovery Advocacy Project, we have an organizing team in every state that is responsible for creating actions that are based on what is happening in each individual state, in each counties. And so Recovery Advocacy Project looks very different state to state. And one of the things that I'm noticing this year more than ever is a lot of more of the actions that people are creating are centered around marginalized individuals. That piece that Carol was talking about, that is just missing. That has been missing historically in the recovery advocacy movement for a very long time, and that 100% absolutely needs to change. Because if we are not advocating for folks that are most marginalized with and for, then we're not digging deep enough, right? If BIPOC and LGBTQI individuals are not at the table or at these organizing team meetings or in listening sessions, we need to make sure that is changed. And I think that is something that is improving, maybe not at the rate that we'd all love to see that change. But thanks to the work of folks that know that this is an important piece, moving forward, there are pieces being filled in that are clicking, and people are better understanding why we need to advocate for those who are part of those marginalized communities.
Yeah. And what I love about my experience with Mobilize Recovery last year, I wasn't at Mobilize Recovery 1, but I was there for the virtual experience last year. And from that, I've spent a lot of time in a lot of different spaces with a lot of different people I've met through Mobilize. And I have just learned so much about things I didn't know I needed to learn about. And in my personal, I'm a person in recovery from a substance use disorder, and for me, open-mindedness and willingness is essential to my recovery process. And so for my advocacy, that willingness and that open-mindedness is paying off for me. I'm learning about things, like harm reduction and what that actually means and not what I thought it meant, and had some really an amazing but an uncomfortable conversation, but it was an uncomfortable conversation that got better about that with an individual with lived experience who does that work because of Mobilize Recovery and the opportunities that came from that. I'm thinking specifically of the Leadership Institute that we've been a part of lately. So, as a personal, hey, do this. Anybody listening out there, hey, do this, because if you get just a little bit of what I've gotten out of this, that idea that guess what, at the root level, we can make differences, and I see that every day. We meet here in Virginia a couple times, several times a month, and we're working on specific things right now, and we get our name out there. We've got legislators who know our name now. We've got people, when we do things, I just had somebody hit me up today and said, hey, can I be a part of the next listening session? Because I missed that, and that's incredible to me to see that, what's going on, here in Virginia, and to be able to see what's going on in Maine, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. I see Joanna and Johnny Fab up there. I know that Texas has got, a lot going on too. And of course, Nevada. So, this is an incredible opportunity. And the fact that, this is a conference that, yes, of course, we have to put an application in, but it's free to attend. That's to me, it's unparalleled in access. What do you hope to get, or what do you hope to see happen after Mobilize, if that's even something that you want to think about? What do you hope to see after 2021's Mobilize Recovery? Where do you want to see the movement grow? Either one of you.
Yeah, for me personally, when you think about why people get involved in recovery advocacy, or why a family member chooses to speak out, or why somebody starts advocating, it's because it's something personal, like localized. It's something that happened in the family, their community, or their state. And I think, for a long time, the recovery advocacy movement has kind of like organized like with these national sort of campaigns that sometimes kind of trickle down to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can really focus on that uniqueness of individuals and communities, and the differences between what people want to focus on state to state, and build those community organizing skills, to me, we are bringing 36 states right now through that process of building their state's advocacy capacity.
Wow.
And so I think, the next level is like, okay, well, how do we get all 50 states to be working in this thinking and acting locally sort of mindset? And for me, that's what I would like to see moving forward. And one of the things continuing talking and stressing about the importance of centering around marginalized individuals, keeping that front and center when we are building campaigns and building actions for people to take. And then the last sort of thing that I think has been really cool with the Mobilize convening is that there are a lot of people outside of the recovery advocacy space, that specialize in communications or specialize in community organizing, that are coming in from other movements that are teaching our organizers. And I think that hasn't really existed too much. in other conferences and in other sort of spaces up until Mobilize Recovery 2019, 2020, and this year. So I think the more we can work with others in there that have expertise in organizing, the better. And I'll pass it over to Carol because I know that she's got vision as well coming out of Mobilize.
Well, I got to tell you, my vision of being where I am right now, as far as Mobilize and the Inclusivity Caucus, I was not envisioning this time last year. I just wanted to seat at the table. And then people started saying, no, we don't want just a seat at the table. We want to be building the freaking table. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it, and we're doing it. Mm-hmm. And the excitement, we started with 70 something folks that responded at Mobilize Virtual 2020 that came to our meet and greet, and it trickled down to about 30 folks. And we have on a regular basis, and then I'm talking as far as the Inclusivity Caucus, we have a regular 16 to 20 something folks that show up every month. And committed to being part of the meeting, engaging in trainings. We really encourage, building in leadership. And I think to answer your question is I want to see not a version of myself, but I like to see someone else standing up in the front of the room, listening to and responding and saying, and then all of a sudden the light bulb just shines down upon them and saying, I am a leader, right? And all of us embracing that person and persons, not just one person. I believe there are many persons that came out of 2019 that weren't involved in 2020 that are coming back in 2021 because we're coming back in person. And, again, our lives have gotten difficult and challenging and, stretching to beyond our borders. But that's what I would love to see is the next generation of recovery movement leaders moving forward. I always jokingly say that I'm in the last quarter of my life, and I truly believe that this is what I was placed here. When you're asking what your purpose is and you're still not sure what that is, go to a Mobilize Recovery 2021 and you will find a planting of a seed of purpose, because I did, and I absolutely love everything that I'm doing today.
A planting of a seed of purpose. I love that. You're gonna trademark that, Carol?
That's going to go alongside the t-shirts that I'm going to have at Mobilize. You're on mute.
I think that was well said, and one of the things that after I love what you said, Carol, about like you couldn't have thought in 2019 after Mobilize like what it turns into, and I think one of the things that I had talked to people about at 2019 was, this Mobilize Recovery is like, when you're doing a puzzle, you do the corner pieces and, the side, the frame first. And then there's that whole piece in the middle that's just not there yet. And that's the coolest part about this is that like, if we can foster leadership and foster community organizing skills and build that sort of frame, and then the rest of the puzzle kind of gets filled in as we go out and we advocate and we find more people and we find more issues. And there's how we kind of think about leadership is not like one person being like a bright light and everybody following that person. Like that is not the type of leadership we're working to build. There's this definition that you all know, that you saw at Institute, the Leadership Institute, that the Organizing Institute. Leadership is about accepting responsibility for enabling others to achieve shared purpose in the face of uncertainty, right? And I think that if we can keep that piece front and center, where the type of leadership or the type of organizing we are working towards is a decentralized sort of leadership, where we can embrace the fact that everybody that comes into this movement has something that they can teach others and has something that they can learn from others. And if we keep creating that space in our state organizing team meetings and in our trainings, it's that everybody, and people might not know what that strength is in them yet. And that's the coolest piece. That I think that's great. I don't think you don't have to know what that is. Just like when people showed up in Vegas 2 years ago, we were just kind of like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. And then over the course of 3 days, they figured out exactly why they were there. And that sort of transformation is pretty amazing to watch in people.
Yeah. And it's when you gave that definition of leadership, I've heard that, we've heard that a few times over the last several weeks, and I heard Rosie's voice saying it as you said it. So, one thing I'm looking forward to, of course, I'd love to see some ugly crying from Carol. But one thing I'm looking forward to, of course, is meeting all the people that have played such a pivotal part of my life in the last year, as I've been going through my own transformation and through this journey and process. But the thing about Mobilize and being a part of the Recovery Advocacy Project for me is access to all of these tools. And when you get on the Recovery Voices page, the Recovery Advocacy Project page, and you're able to look down and say, you know what, here's a whole bunch of information about justice issues. Here's a whole bunch of information about LGBTQ issues. In fact, but there's also opportunities for us to get more information and to add to that information, which is what, certainly with the Inclusivity Caucus. And then as we drill down into the subcommittees, we're working on housing for that. And that's actually something in Virginia we're working strongly on, as you both know, safe and inclusive housing for LGBTQIA plus individuals. And it's been a fascinating conversation for me, through this process, and then other issues. So I'm interested. What's going on in the other states? Now you said 38 states, Aaron? 36 states have a recovery advocacy project?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep. And each state right now, like in April and May, they all did these listening sessions. Because if they're going to create campaigns that are guided by grassroots, that first step is in really listening to people. And so April and May were really just about listening to folks. So that way, when you create campaigns, it's based on what somebody said in a listening session, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And so we're seeing a lot of teams. I would say, like in Tennessee, there's a big push around employment issues. They're working to do a job fair for people in recovery, and they've just identified a whole bunch of recovery-friendly workplaces, and not just unemployed but underemployed. And so it's about the fact that people in recovery that I know are great employees, will work their butt off, and so it's and are career driven. It's not just about like job stuff, like it's about life skills, and so they're focusing on that. Texas is finishing up their legislative session, and so they basically rallied people around a number of harm reduction bills, a number of reentry bills, a couple housing bills, and recovery support services. And so from state to state, we're encouraging people, the teams, try to figure out either or legislative-based solutions around what they're hearing. And so a lot of the times people are like, well, where does RAP stand on this issue? Mm-hmm. Recovery Advocacy Project stand on this issue? And we cannot answer that question, right? Because from state to state, people are working on all different issues, so we make it about individuals. We make it about organizing. And so state teams are getting very creative around how to tackle some of these community-based issues. We've delivered thousands and thousands and thousands of Narcan units across this country. I'm not sure the exact number, but it is a lot, where a number of state teams are working on distributing Narcan recovery homes to peer centers all over the country. And so it's hard to answer that question of like what states are working on, because like we would literally have to take 36 states and it's probably 30 different things with a handful of similarities.
Yeah. But that's the beautiful thing, is that with all these individuals, individual, I know, I guess groups, rap groups across the country, eventually we might be working on the same issue, and then we have lived experience with individuals, somewhere else, another state, and we have that resource, that we can go to. So I'm looking. I know Joanna's up there. Joanna Vance in West Virginia. I know they've been doing a lot of Narcan distribution recently, I believe, haven't they? Good to see you, Johnny Fab, up there in Pennsylvania representing. Carol, what's going on? What's going on? So I want to know, what special guests are we going to see at Mobilize Recovery?
Oh, yeah. You almost got me. No, can't. Lips are sealed. We're working. Like one of the greatest things of being part of the Inclusivity Caucus is that in this first year I became the chair, and I have a seat at the table at Mobilize planning, and as well as
you built the chair and you extended the table is what you did. You built your chair.
Of course I extended
the table, and then you said, I'm getting in here. Pass me the mashed potatoes. You didn't say pass. You grabbed the mashed potatoes. And
yeah. So, well, let's not talk about food. This is not the Food Network. So, having a seat at the planning around Mobilize, but also being on the staff, meetings with RAP, with Aaron and Garrett and Ryan and Courtney Allen out of Maine, who's doing some amazing things, through Me RAP. I love that. I wish we could do that with Connecticut, but if we took the C and then we took out the T, it would sound crap. And I'm like, nah, I don't think we're going to do that.
California.
What we're doing here currently in Connecticut, what our organizing, because I am one of a few of us. There's not a slew of us. There's a few of us on our organizing team here in Connecticut, and it's been the focus that was the focus back in 2019, which has been probably the focus even before RAP was even came around. Was around creating safe, affordable housing, right? Creating these spaces of safe, affordable recovery housing for folks, but also educating homeowners, because most of them are private homeowners, on the necessary need for someone to be on medication assistance recovery. And not and also having everyone trained in Narcan. We know that private homes, it's a lot different than state funded. We don't have a whole lot of state funded, but there are a few beds that are secured by state, and those folks can be on medication assisted recovery treatment. But again, it's not the same across the board. And just this time last week, someone my son went to school with passed away, 26 years old. Yeah. He was doing well in his recovery. He could not get into a recovery home, being on medication assistance recovery, and he had a reoccurrence, and he died. Damn. And the numbers, Ryan, I know shared the numbers on his talk a while back, but I think the numbers in during the pandemic are somewhere in the 80,000s, right? Yeah. I don't know if you could correct me if I'm wrong, either one of you, but like that's where organizations like Recovery Advocacy Project, and why we need to build in leadership and organizing as a team versus, just going to one person for all the answers. So we work together, we problem solve, we strategically plan events. We're doing these platform cards now where each state is very specific on what issues that they want to be working on. We just completed ours Tuesday night with Garrett, and we're in Connecticut. We're going to be looking at recovery, social justice, and recovery housing, access to recovery, and social justice. And this is what I love about it, is that I may not have been doing these. And again, I came from a 12-step recovery, but I may not have been learning about this in a church basement. So I'm really glad that we get to share our stories, and we're out there in the communities and states, and we're making things happen. We're informing people. We're going into those places of uncomfortability, and vulnerability, but we're also asking folks to be accountable.
Right.
That's Aaron's favorite word. I'm going to get another t-shirt. It says be accountable. It's about us. We're accountable. As a person in long-term recovery, coming up on 27 years of continued recovery, like, I'm accountable.
Woo-hoo!
I'm responsible.
Yeah.
For the next generation.
I really love what you mentioned about not learning this in a church basement. And I know where you're coming from, and that, and I do believe, everybody has a different recovery. We have to, I have to respect that, but I also have to look at, the anonymous people. The movie came out, how many years ago now, that John, Shinholzer here at McShin and so many others were involved with, really put the importance of not being in the shadows and coming out of those church basements and talking about recovery and making that the message, that not only is it something to be proud of, but look, it can help, being hope dealers. And I love, I know a little bit about the story about how Garrett and Ryan started Recovery Advocacy Project and Narcan and recovery housing in California. And I think it's an amazing story, that one little thing led to another thing. And well, it's not a little thing. I'm sorry. That one thing led to another thing and led to another thing. And now we've got 36 states all across the country, and all working independently, but also with common purpose. And I think finding that common purpose is really beautiful. I see so much hope when I come into our meetings, and I see myself in you, Carol. I see myself in you, Aaron. I see myself in Ryan, and I see, we all have the same story with different flavors, and we all bring that together. And I think that's amazing that we get to do that, And I only get to do that because of the people who came before me and continue to fight and stand up and stand up or sit down at the table and say, you know what, we're going to get in here. But we've got some comments up here. Joey, love you, buddy. Joey Jewel, Squadzilla. Lane saying, let's go.
When you see those, when you're mentioning those comments, I just wanted to bring up the anonymous people, and it's one person I can say that probably will be at Mobilize, and that's Greg Williams, who produced and directed the anonymous people, and he's here in Danbury, Connecticut. So and I have to thank Greg, because Greg, when I was in baby advocacy mode in 2013. After just becoming a peer, getting my certification as a peers recovery support specialist, Greg scooped me up and asked me to be part of Connecticut Turning to Youth and Family. And from that organization came Facing Addiction, which came to hanging out on the Washington Mall with Steven Tyler. And, and that's all evolved to where I am today. And I'm just like, and I'm going to do my John Shinhauser if you can spend $5. No, that's it. I love when I meet up with John, because I tried to do my impersonation of John. I absolutely love him and everything that he has brought to this platform. Thank you.
Well, and Carol, every staff member here has an impression of John, and none of us can do them on the air.
we should do a Zoom meeting of all the impressions, and then and then post it at Mobilize now.
I know there are a few touchstone moments in my life where I I think back to and I see that's where this comes from, and some are negative, but the positive ones in my life, and this isn't necessarily recovery advocacy, but the importance of advocacy. In my in a former life, when I was in my early 20s, I did LGBT work with what was then called the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force in DC. And I was in my young 20s, and I really didn't know what I was doing or what I was part of right there. And I was a young guy in my young 20s in DC, partying and doing my thing, and I was like, oh cool, I get to work with these people. Let's drink some more Absolute, Budweiser, all the things that were sponsoring us at the time. Where the moment for me and the importance of the work for me became so strong was when there was a march in DC. I think it was either 2000 or 1999. I think it was 2000, and the AIDS quilt was put out on the mall. And I remember being down at the AIDS quilt alone and walking across the street where the Westboro Baptist Church was there protesting and holding up signs with Matthew Shepard burning in hell and spitting at me, and I just remember sitting there and I'm going to get teary-eyed thinking about it, because I don't think I cried at that moment, but I remember thinking, how much hate is there, and for what? For what? And I think what I got to do from that point, with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, I ended up taking on all the there was a lot more snail mail at the time, and I remember taking on all the snail mail that would come, and how it is with a nonprofit with a very specific focus and very little funding. You can't do everything that everybody wants you to do, but I remember answering so much of that mail, and that's funny. It's just amazing, to be able to be in a position where you can talk to somebody and at least give some hope. And I was very fortunate that I did the volunteer program and did a lot of the Get Out the Vote work at that year in 2000. But that for me is a touchstone for me. Like, I continue to go back to that. I'm a person who suffers from a very selfish disease and a disease that wants me to feel useless, and I can get back into that very, very easily. And I do. I mean, this past week, I've had some moments of feeling useless and overwhelmed and just unable to do anything. And when I have those one-on-one moments with individuals, I think is where I feel the power of what we do. I know that when I'm having a one-on-one with an individual, I've got the power of people like Carol Cruz and Aaron Kucharski, and I've got Ryan Hampton and John Shinholzer and Carol McDade and all these amazing people who have put something in me that I'm now hopefully putting something into somebody else. And that's what Mobilize, that's what I'm looking forward to, continuing to do and build in myself that, but also hopefully sharing myself with others to see that spark, because, I guess deep at heart, I'm still that little kid sitting in front of those protesters telling me I'm going to hell, and trying not to cry, not trying to show that weakness, and just standing there, and I'd like to say I was praying or do something spiritual, but I was probably sitting there trying not to pee my pants, but remembering that, now I didn't take that, and I don't know how to articulate that. I haven't really dealt with that so much in my recovery yet, but there's a lot to that to still unpack, because for me, I ended up drinking and doing a lot of drugs over the years, thinking about that specifically, and then other things that went around that. And now I'm unpacking and I'm cleaning that up, and I'm making, what is it? Making hay when the sun shines, or something like that. I'm trying to fix this stuff. So, I got more emotional than I thought.
I love that you just. Well, I love that you just shared that sort of moment, and then that's why, Carol and I and some other, like, having those deeper. You just literally described why, drug use or mental health issues is intersects with, like why do people use drugs and alcohol? To feel better, right? But the fact that there was hate and homophobia or racism that impact and trauma that people experience in their communities, in their lives, and on a personal level, that can then lead to addiction. Like people, not everybody understands the intersectionality of all this, and I think that that conversation of like we all have that personal issue that got us to kind of click, that says something's not quite right in the world, whether we were treated differently through discrimination or homophobia or hate or racism, but we can do something about it, right? That piece of diving deeper into that story for yourself, Nathan, and like really understanding that why you speak out, of why advocacy is important to you, why activism is important to you, for all of us to discover that for ourselves. And then that has a ripple effect, right? When you have conversations with others, when you go out and you create campaigns, when you work to build your state teams, and the same way that the Virginia Recovery Advocacy Project right now is working on safe, accessible LGBTQI recovery housing. Because of the leadership there on work on that issue, there's now advocates in Missouri and advocates in Jersey that are creating similar campaigns, right? Like, and so like I too love the ripple effect of that one person can have, that one state team can have, that one community can have on the next community, on the next generation of advocates. So thank you for sharing that. I think that, for all of us to hold that sort of piece, that personal reason of like what inspires us to do what we do, it can be painful, and we have to stay vulnerable to feel it sometimes. But in that vulnerability and that pain is where you see that advocacy come out, that truth come out, that conversation when you hear something homophobic, that conversation when you hear somebody say something that's racist or discriminatory towards people who use drugs or are in recovery. Yeah. I appreciate that you create this space for people to discover that, and I agree with you that Mobilize Recovery is about that, for that self-discovery piece. And it's about all right, well, now how can we do this in an organized way that we can have the biggest impact in people's lives? Because as Carol shared, it's people are still dying every day from overdose, from alcoholism, suicide, from hate. And that, for us as organizers, you got to push back on it. The world does not have to be, we can't get frustrated. We can get frustrated, but we can't get defeated by it, is what I'm saying. Like, it's all right to be frustrated. But to know that, there are others that have these experiences, and there are other team members in your state and in your community that they have your back no matter what your story is.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that. And that's what I'm looking forward to most. And I see we're coming up on the hour here, and I, the two of you, I've grown. It's going to be funny meeting you in person, because I know your faces and you're, above here up for so well. I have a feeling it's just going to be weird, but it's going to be beautiful.
All you're going to say, I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Maybe we should walk around with just, boxes, like, so, because we're used to that. We'll get to like some Brady Bunch thing, and we'll I don't know. I think we should make some kind of Zoom joke out of the whole thing about being in person. But I'm really looking forward to meeting the two of you in person. You both have become an integral part of my life, and you're both people I look up to immensely, and hope to learn more from. Final words before what do we got? Anything in the comments that's actually I
So
don't know.
I just like to really quick just tag off of what Aaron was just sharing in regards to the intersection. You know that tonight for our first Inclusivity Caucus roundtable will be Facebook Live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Those that aren't part of the roundtable is inclusive to all members of the Inclusivity Caucus that will be having a discussion around the intersection of mental health and race in America. So we will be having that tonight, and you'll be able to see it broadcast off of the Recovery Advocacy Project page. So I'm hoping that looks like we have a lot of response of folks that are going to be showing up and doing. We're not as fancy as you all. We're just doing a regular Zoom in, but you're really excited about that because it's our version of a listening session, but it's just with our folks to keep the space safe, because the questions that I'm going to be, emceeing the event or asking the questions, and it really has to do around George Floyd was murdered. It's coming up on a year, May 25th, and many of us were exposed to that video of the murder, and where were we then and where are we now with our mental health, and also talking about race, in this place of uncomfortability and accountability. And the other thing I can drop a little tidbit on, and I'm not going to say who, but we're going to have topics around race and racism and anti-racism, and how do we support that in the recovery spaces, and remove it out of the recovery spaces and talk about it in the recovery movement. That would be one of the breakouts. And then also we're looking at, cultivating humility and peer support around for LGBTQIA folks. And, how can we be more supportive? How can we be, again, working away from racism and homophobia and all those things. These are conversations that we need to have. We need to continue to have. Well, a lot of us, like I said, we've been doing a lot of stretching, and yeah, I'm really excited to be part of that. I'm excited, that you're part of this, Nathan and Aaron. Thank you so much for the support. When there is times when I did want to throw in a towel and said, F this, I am not qualified. And each day I get every bit more a message that I am that qualified person. And I'm also love sharing the space with everybody. So I'll take a pause from there.
Thanks, Carol. Any last words, Aaron? You want to share any teasers on who might be on the stage?
Just that if you want to join us in Las Vegas, person capacity for this convening, and so the only way to attend the Mobilize Recovery 2021 is to apply, and the applications are only open for a couple more weeks. You have to go to mobilizerecovery.org. It'll have more details about the convening. Again, there's no registration fee for attendees. There's a highly discounted room rate at the space, and people have to work out their travel. But we want to see you. So if you want to attend in person, mobilizerecovery.org. If you are interested in attending virtually, you can apply for Mobilize Recovery. You can apply on the website there for that option as well.
And I did just drop the link. Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you there. I did just drop
Appreciate
the
it.
link in the chat there. So thank you, and I hope to see a bunch of people. And Aaron, I'm sorry I cut you off at the end there. Did you have anything else to say? No.
No, I'm good.
You the man. Thank you very much. And Carol, great to have you both on the show. Again, you both are veterans of the show. At some point, we'll get you a shirt. I'm going to have some of these made again. I want to say, of course, thank you to Justin for being our producer today. Being our producer every day and being amazing. Yep.
You are welcome.
That's all I need. I want to plug next week, though. This is our final show for the week, so we're going to be back next Tuesday. Actually, I got a couple plugs. First of all, this Saturday is a night for Scott, fourth annual night for Scott. If you want more information about that, check out the McShin website or check out our Facebook page, which you're on right now, and look that up because that is a beautiful fundraiser for the McShin Foundation. And I know Jill was on talking about that last Thursday. Next week, we have Kiara coming from Elephant House here in Virginia. I don't know much about that, and so I'm really, really looking forward to doing a little investigation before. I had a lovely conversation with her a couple days ago, and that's a conversation I really think we're going to have some fun with, learning about recovery and mental health issues here in Virginia. And then, we have Women Wednesdays on with Dixie and Joyce next Wednesday, but next Thursday, and I'm setting this up now. Next Thursday, Honesty Liller, Chief Executive Officer of the McShin Foundation. She celebrates 14 years of continuous recovery. And so she's going to take that time to celebrate with us here on the show for 14 years. And there might be, I don't know if I can tell. No, I can tell. She's going to have a special guest. She's going to have the owner of Liller Lawn Care, Adam Liller, her husband, with her on the show, talking about recovery, what's going on. We might have some balloons. We might have some silliness in here, but I said one rule and one rule only: no glitter. No glitter in the space. Todd, if you're watching,
Nathan, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Maybe y'all don't know this, but when we had our 100th episode, Honesty was on the show with us, and there was glitter everywhere. I've still got it in my carpet at home. But with all that said, we got a great week next week on coming ahead for you. Thank you, guys. Get in there. MobilizeRecovery.org. Sign up.
Thank you.
You can make a difference. Love y'all. Bye.
Be well.
Thank you.
Here at McShin, we believe in the McShin way, which is authentic recovery support service providers, people with lived experience, bringing that experience to those who need that lived experience in recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in many things to support our mission. We believe in women empowerment.
What I love most about what we believe here at McShin is we believe in the authenticity of the peer-to-peer approach.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in giving people opportunity.
Here at McShin, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
At the McShin Foundation, we believe in helping people reach their full potential.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in multiple pathways to recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in placing principles before personalities to help spread hope.
Here at McShin, we believe that recovery is possible and that any person seeking recovery can become a more acceptable, responsible, and productive member of society.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in self-discovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in saving lives and offering second chances.
Here at McShin, we believe you can do this.
Here at McShin Foundation, we believe that we can only keep what we have by giving away, which is why we continue to help others like us seek and find recovery.